Well, Tab just texted me. She's trying to log into the talk, but it's not working.
We're just live right this second. Hello, everyone.
That's
Thanks
why.
for joining us for our 6th live stream. Again, I'm Christine Klassen, and joining me today is Carl White. I'll get to an introduction with him in a few moments. He's joining us from his studio here in Calgary. Hopefully you can all join us for a glass of wine. It is happy hour on a Friday after all. Cheers, cheers.
Hello.
As many of you know, we have been doing these kind of informal artist talks weekly to kind of keep connected with our community and moving to more of these online experiences. So at any point, we encourage you also to ask your questions, put comments, because we actually see them and we'll respond, and Carl will answer any questions. That's what he told me earlier.
And your check is in the mail for those questions.
Exactly. There you go. So some of you may or may not know, but we are actually open now Fridays and Saturdays, 11 to 4. And when I mean open to the public, 11 to 4. And Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we're still remaining open by appointment. Just as part of this transition time, we know some of you still want to have your visits kind of by appointment. Private viewings and private appointments with Candace in the Frame Shop. But for those of you who are interested in kind of getting out into the world, Fridays and Saturdays, 11 to 4, we're open for you. And we have hand sanitizer available for you as well. As I always say, and I can't harp on this enough because it's always bolded in my agenda, is support artists and support local. Next week, June 12th, we will have local artist and tattoo boss, Carrie Arthurs, joining us. And I'm still figuring out who's going to be the week after that. So kind of stay tuned on our Facebook and Instagram pages for that info. I should know within the next couple days. So I'm going to introduce Carl. Carl White was born in Liverpool and studied painting, drawing, and graphic design at the Alberta College of Art and Design in Calgary. Known for his contemporary take on classical or romantic subjects and techniques, White's work has been widely exhibited and collected for over 20 years. He currently lives and works in Calgary, where he is exceedingly active in the art scene as well as with the community. And Carl, round yourself out for us a little bit.
Eat a little more, get a little, round myself out.
We could do that too.
COVID's been rough. That's kind of pretty much it. I graduated art school and I put on a hat that was an artist's cap, and I decided that's it. Like, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my days. And it's been a nonstop pursuit that, I understand more and more with each passing year, and this time has really kind of cemented my belief in the value of art and its purpose and why I do it. And I kind of, in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm just getting started in this journey.
Well, I think that's a healthy thing to have too, right? Because if you already know it all, like, why bother?
Yeah, it's true. I was talking to somebody the other day that was asking me some tips about painting, and I described it as problem solving. It's a constant process of solving problems. It's like there's not a thing that it's just like a new problem keeps arising, right? And you just try to understand it and take it apart and figure it out, and then a new one arises. And there's a saying that if you have a problem, you should just get a bigger one, because then those little problems disappear. And it's true, and it's kind of what I keep doing. I keep kind of looking at art on a higher level of what I think it can be, and what I would like to do with it. And that problem keeps getting bigger, and it's an endless pursuit. So it's hopefully it takes me to my last breath.
Well, and it keeps life interesting. And certainly, as many of you who are tuning in probably will agree, if Carl has an incredible amount of talent. So we're pretty excited also, and this will be one of my questions later, but we're also excited to see what you have in store for our September show, because Carl is going to be our September exhibition for after the summer. So we'll kick off our fall programming with some new work and hopefully get a little preview of what's going on in the studio too. Right behind him. Yay!
Yeah. You betcha. Yeah.
Well,
I'm excited for that show.
Yeah, no, I am too, because, after all this madness and having to, kind of postpone shows, and, it'll be nice to, because I can only imagine like 3 months from now, we will be able to actually have more of, kind of a formal exhibition as opposed to bits and bytes. Oh, hey, Lori, good to see you. I guess I can't see you, Lori, but I can see that you're writing. And hey, Jeff. I guess that's for Carl. I'm not your best.
Hi, guys.
Yeah,
come on. Stealing my friends.
I know. Sorry.
I only have 2.
Okay, so I'm just going to jump into one of the questions, because, a lot of people who have, seen your shows either at our gallery or other galleries or at the White Museum, I've probably seen that you pretty much work almost sometimes even evenly with canvas and works on paper. And, that to me is maybe a little unusual, because typically a lot of artists will just work in canvas or just work on paper. So are the paperworks like studies for larger paintings, or how do you decide what is a work on paper versus a painting on canvas?
Well, and this is very specific to this upcoming body of work that I'm kind of immersed in right now.
Mm-hmm.
Each piece is kind of its own thing, and it's not. Sometimes it wants to be canvas, sometimes it wants to be paper. There's a fragility to paper that I love. It's I don't know if you can kind of see on the walls in the background. Some of these drawings I've been spending time on, and then I've actually been taking orbital sanders to them.
Right.
I've been like really just pushing them right to their edge of almost disintegration.
Yeah.
And it's that's a metaphor for me. There's a lot about impermanence. There's a lot about the deterioration of things right before our eyes. Therein lies the beauty. It's the flesh of our bodies. It ages and it's scarred and it breaks down, and the canvas, the paper becomes a skin of its own, and it starts to collect stories. And as I fail and I rework it and I rebuild it, it starts to pick up its own histories. And it's and those scars, those wrinkles that occur in the pages are like they're markers of that piece's life. And it's kind of it's what's seen as when I buy paper from the art store, they're always like delicately rolling it for me and wrapping it, and I laugh because I'm about to drive over it with my truck just to kind of get started, right? Like this thing has to kind of generate some gravity. It has to pick up some life of its own that I then start to find. There's a piece I will kind of point up to there, which is called Vishnu in Rome. And it's I'm gonna do some magic of the internet here, and I can move in on it.
Yeah.
But so this is like, there's layers of pages like glued and kind of attached and broken down, and it's they become structural. They become I just follow it, and sometimes it's paper, sometimes it's canvas, and it's like even for this upcoming exhibition, I'm working on a small film. I'm working on some big sculptures that'll be part of the work. So because it's like the thing I want to say needs that to say it. As much as I would pick a color, I pick a substrate, a thing to work on.
Well, and I think that's like I said, I find that really interesting because for some artists, and I think a lot traditionally too, like the works on paper were preparatory for
Yeah.
like larger pieces or studies or, whatever it happened to be. Whereas I like how you're giving drawing its own part in your creative process. Like these are
Sure.
drawings. They're not just,
Yeah.
precursors to something better, that drawing can be drawing.
No. Well, go see the Virgin and St. Anne cartoon in the National Gallery in London.
Okay.
Leonardo's cartoon for the Virgin and St. Anne painting. It's infinitely more beautiful. Like it has its, all the failings, all the struggles, all the attempts to understand the gestures. It's all in this drawing.
Okay.
The canvas then is very polished and beautiful, but it's figured out. You know what I mean? It's like,
okay. I do.
And for me, like I mentioned it, the idea of problem solving, it's like a mathematician showing their work on the chalkboard. You see all those layers of calculations trying to find it. It's like it's in there, and drawings allow for that. I find, paint in its opaque nature, and certainly the way I work with it, it's buried in there, and it's still of interest to me, certainly. The textures, the marks, and I've been starting to really like open up my canvases, to cut them, to slash them, to kind of find what's beneath them. And it's the same thing that I was doing with the paper, and then I was like, well, why can't I pull the canvas apart? Why can't it reveal? And
well, and that's a good segue.
Yeah, again,
because it was one other thing I wanted to know about, because again, anyone who saw your last show with us, well, actually, no, it's more of the White Museum. It was that body of work, which of course we got a number of those pieces after that exhibition, where it did showcase, and I'm going to start bringing up some images where we did start seeing the pieces where, here we go, like the one I put in Instagram. And then, of course, this is one that is in your studio right now. I know, but where, so this came from paper, is what you're saying? Like the idea, then you just took it to canvas? Is that where this?
Well, it all came from that last exhibition with you, where I was like, I was really questioning why I paint. What's the point of this? I'm not going to make a better painting than Rembrandt. I'm not going to lift someone spiritually like Rothko can. Like the greatest things have arguably been done. So it's like, so what am I doing with this? Why am I doing this? Why am I not working in, AI or something, right? And so I had to question it. And this was the idea of a koan, of like providing yourself with an unanswerable question, because I knew that I wasn't going to stop painting, but I wanted to try and understand why I was painting.
Okay.
And this question is a riddle. It's a koan is an unanswerable question. What is the sound of one hand clapping? If you see the Buddha on the road, kill him, was one of the big one that resonated with me. And that one means, if you see the Buddha, if you see this image of a concept, of an intellectual kind of pursuit, of a spiritual pursuit, you're off the path, because the thing has become concrete, and it's no longer it becomes a thing. And it's like, it's not Buddha. Buddha is a state of mind. It's not a golden idol. It's flawed. It's inherently broken. And this is what painting was for me. It's like this. I was trying to understand it, and I've always held this, which kind of I'll segue into what the new work is, but I've held painting in this very, very lofty regard, and this idea of edification, this idea of can lift us spiritually. It can approach the sublime. We can go all the way back to antiquity, and this idea of the sublime was spoken of, right? This thing that is beyond greatness. It's beyond calculation. It's the rapture. It's like a thing in which we're pulled from our moment of reality into this kind of space of immense beauty, where we kind of get it. It's like and I was always like, art is that for me. Like I sit in front of a Rothko and I cry. I sit in front of a Corot landscape and I can feel that rain drenched
Right.
meadow, you know, as the sun's breaking through the clouds, and my heart aches because I'm like, I'm right there with every other human that's felt that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is the sublime. This is the thing, right? And so I was always like, late in life, when I'm, you know, older, I'll start to make those paintings. I think like that's my
Okay.
role on this rock. Like that's where I gotta go to.
Okay.
And during COVID, I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, what am I waiting for?
Mhm.
There's no future. There's no tomorrow. There's just this. And I'm like, what? Why? What am I going to make a bunch of mediocre things up to this
Right.
point? Or do I just start now? This is it. And I'm like, and it shifted. So these kind of unraveling, peeling away of the layers of the
Mhm.
canvas was me peeling away what painting is for me. What's beneath it? Like, is it just some pigment on some woven fabric, or is there something under there? Is there like a
Right.
thing in it? And this is where you're seeing like gold,
I
you
know.
know,
That's
the
amazing.
alchemist gold, that the lead of paint, lead white, right? The transmutation of lead to gold was the alchemical pursuit, the philosopher's stone, in
Ah,
which
okay.
it was the transmutation of our gray, heavy weight of life to this vibrant, reflective metal that like shows us ourselves and illuminates. It does all of these things, right? And I'm
Mm.
like, so what's beneath these pigments? It's the alchemical gold, it's the philosopher's stone, and it's this, you know, I want to poke a hole in the sky, right, and see heaven. Like, it's, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah.
it's a little funny, but I mean, there it is, right? I'm in the mood to dissolve the sky, Virginia Woolf quote.
Okay, let me
But
bring that one
it's
up.
about that peeling away the sky, like what's beneath it, right?
So, no, I particularly find
So, you know, I mean,
this is beautiful. Like, wow, just that little bit of the peel. But I love it because it's just,
yeah,
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 it's no longer just about this surface. It's about, yeah, the layers of it too, right? And I mean,
yeah.
and I love these
What are
paintings when I
we,
saw
right? We,
them. Mhm.
you know, we see each other and we see this surface, right? And, you know, when I painted portraits and or commissions portraits of people, I'll kind of like, I'll see them, and it's very easy to get a resemblance.
Mhm.
Verisimilitude it's simple. You just put the marks in the right place.
Right.
You know, it's all about seeing.
Let's
It's
put
really
the
easy.
marks in the right
It
place.
is, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, that's the secret to life. Just do the thing you're supposed to do right now.
I
Really
know. I
easy.
just love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's like, just put the mark where it's supposed to be. It's like, oh, I was putting it in the wrong place. Yeah, of course.
Exactly. That's the problem, right?
But you
Anyway.
know, but what we see is not that person. That's why
Mhm.
you can have academic realism, but it's cold and lifeless at times
Right.
if the artist doesn't find what's beneath that. It's not just representing the thing, it's what is the thing. You know, Picasso said art is a lie that helps us understand the truth, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, it's an attempt to
Mhm.
express this thing, you know. And for me, I'm attempting, and I'm understanding what I'm attempting now, which
Mhm.
is kind of, it's I feel very powerful right now, for as grand as that word is. It's
Mhm.
kind of what the place I've coming to during all of this
Right.
isolation, you know. And this isolation I've found is, it's an opportunity to not just panic and not be riddled with fear and not hide and not blame and not, but to actually go inside and question it all, like a retreat, like a meditative retreat, like a spiritual journey. It's a long dark night of the soul, you know, where you actually were
Yeah.
faced with it, the dragon. And what do you do with the dragon? Do you run, do you hide, or do you slay it?
Yeah.
And you know,
Right. Right.
you know, this is the Jungian story, right? The myth, Joseph Campbell, this like, face your dragon and slay it, and the hero's journey begins, right? And this is, each of our journeys is to like see what blocks us at each phase. And it's funny, I found that the canvas was blocking me, right? And I spoke of Leonardo's
Okay. Yeah.
Virgin St. Anne, right? The preciousness of it. right? It becomes very precious. Oh, I spent I gotta, this is it. This is the painting. I can't blow it, right? And like Shiva in the beautiful dance of creation and destruction, creates and destroys simultaneously, because
Right.
we have to kill our
Yeah.
heroes so that we can move forward, so that we
Well,
can be
and there's
reborn, you know. And it's,
part of the
and so I
cycle.
have to keep, I have to keep killing these things so that I can,
Mhm.
a new one can be freed. And
Yeah.
um,
That's a beautiful
yeah,
way to put it. It's a
it's a
beautiful way.
beautiful cycle. Yeah.
And
So it's please, yeah.
well, no, I kind of cut you off there. Sorry, you finish your thought.
Yeah, yeah. So Vishnu in Rome, yeah. I mean, this is one of my favorite stories from Hindu mythology. It's this, it's kind of their version of the Big Bang. It's this
Hmm.
Vishnu, you know, and the greatest of the Hindu deities sits in a dreamlike state, and at each blink
Hmm.
he dreams a universe, and a lotus
Yeah.
grows from his belly button and unfolds, and a new universe is born. And this happens ad infinitum, just keeps exploding into this like cosmic like magnificence, you know. And like, I've always loved that story. It's
So have
just
I.
so beautiful. And Vishnu is blue, you know. And I've really been, blue has been like, just everything I'm doing is blue right now. It's like it's Kandinsky's blue, right? This
Right.
this it you know, he believed in this concerning the spiritual in art, his little treatise on color and composition and how it can awaken the spiritual in the viewer. Blue is the highest on the scale in that it can
Okay.
awaken us, right? And you know, then
Okay.
we look at, you know, we look at Gothic art, we look at the Virgin Mary's robes are always the most beautiful
Always blue.
ultramarine blue, which was the most expensive of the colors, right?
Hmm.
And there's something about it, right? There's the ocean has been really just swirling around me as well, like in my kind of, in my dreams, in my waking state, and water, and it's kind of ever present state yet infinitely changing, the complex mathematics of how a wave system moves. Like, I'm just like, I'm just consumed by it all. And it's and Vishnu's blue, and his dream is blue, and the night sky, you know, all of it. I'm just like,
Bring on the blue.
it, it's interesting. Like, it's just, I'm so in this kind of world. And um, I've been, yeah, all the kind of figurative drawings I've been making are all
Yeah, I'm gonna
blues.
bring.
You know, you know, that little lotus that
Okay.
you kind of pointed out was like,
Oh yeah, let
it
me
was
bring.
me trying to understand how the lotus would work in Vishnu in Rome. It's called Vishnu in Rome because the background kind of drawing, which you can see around the kind of perimeter,
Mhm.
is from a uh, this idea of a trompe l'oeil, like ceiling,
Okay.
you know, the heavens opening up, right? And looking up in a church, you know, at these kind of immense murals that lifted the spirit to these higher kind of
Mhm.
places, you know, and the slumbering kind of Renaissance figure with the dream of a universe being born. Because there's,
I love it.
you know, time is also so of such interest to me. It's like, you know, that where I can share the mindset of a 18th century peasant looking at a field. I can share it with
Hmm.
Vishnu 10,000 eons ago, or you know, a figure, and like, we're all the same. We're of the same
Right.
stardust.
Right.
And it's I'm just really like, I'm kind of, I'm understanding why I'm
Mhm.
doing this over this period. And I'm kind of, I've always been a little bit maybe apprehensive. Whilst my work has all been heading there, there's been
Mhm.
an element of like, I don't know, of looking good. Is this like, is this getting hokey? Am I getting, you know, those
Okay.
questions have always kind of percolated, right?
Mhm.
Like, and I've just reached this point of like, who am I kidding? Like, this is what it's always been about. And I just, you know, I need to make those things that I know I'm here to make.
Mhm.
And so I'm starting that journey now. And it's, it's really it's awesome, and it's a little bit terrifying, and it's a little bit kind of um but that's so it should be. I
Yeah,
mean, that's what it should be. It shouldn't, nothing in life should be comfortable.
yeah.
That's, why the hell we make lazy boys and taco times, I don't know. Like, should be we should be being chased by saber-toothed tigers and alive, with wild-eyed wonder, running barefoot through fields. And it's yeah, that's kind of, I got it. I'm starting to get it.
Well, and I'm glad you talked about the blue a little bit, because that was one of the other questions. Because when you sent me these images, I was like, okay, there's something going on with this blue.
Yeah, art stores were closed.
Right?
I only had a bunch of blue.
It's like I had surplus of blue because I used a lot of pink in my last show. Yeah. Yeah. No, I particularly love this Vishnu in Rome piece. I can't wait to see it in person, just to get a sense of, because you can never in these digital images see the full, surface value of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I did a lot of Eastern religious studies when I was in university. So yeah, I'm particularly kind of tapped into this direction you're going with too, because again, like just a lot of those, so a lot of the, I guess a lot of the themes that you're talking about are, kind of very universal and relate back again to, a lot of these Eastern religions and Buddhism, right? So yeah, I'm very excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, it's so interesting, like even this idea of the sublime has become very interesting to me, right? Like, and it's been a it was a kind of a period in philosophy, that has kind of flowed in and out, in which this, it's often at a time where we're in great jeopardy, or we danger is deeply present, and there'll be kind of an awakening, right? In this kind of moment of terror, of fear, there's a freeing, there's an enlightening kind of illumination that occurs, right? And I stumbled on a drawing by Michelangelo, which was the source of this triptych, to the rapture, which the rapture is born of the term raptus, which means to take by force. And it's the raptor is a eagle, or a bird of prey, right? That would take its prey. This is where we get the word rape from.
Okay.
This is where we get the rapture. The rapture, in the biblical sense, is it's a ripping of from our comfort, of like being pulled, because this is how it has to happen. We won't gently walk.
Right.
I mean, we're looking at the race riots occurring in America right now. We're looking at the protesters in Hong Kong. This is like violent, aggressive uprisings, and that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, right.
It's you watch animals have sex, and it's visceral and it can be violent at times, but it's such a fine line, right? And this idea of the rapture, to me, was like, wow, that's kind of an interesting thing. And this is also how the sublime is spoken about. And a lot of people that have over history that have spoken of experiencing something of the sublime, not like my cheeseburger was sublime today. I'm talking about like, the word has been grossly kind of stolen from us, right?
It really has.
But it often occurred to sailors who were at sea and would, be in horrific storms, or boats being pulled to pieces, the raft of the Medusa from Géricault's painting, and then you're on the edge of it. This could be it. And the light shines through, the clouds part, and there's hope. There's that, I'm going to make it. I'm going to survive. Right. And that's the sublime. Like you see it, like the life begins to glisten, right? It's different. And it's interesting. This period we're in right now it has that potential. That possibility exists for people to see.
It really does.
Yeah. It's like, the US, what's occurring there is, for all the suffering and death, which I never want to see, we need it. This has to happen. Like the fall of great empires are always rife with burning and hard. Like
Yeah.
it's the only way we as humans can grow, right? The addict has
True.
to
Mhm.
hit rock bottom before they wake up. You know, it's
And it is, and it's
so
said, and it is cyclical as well, right? So this
yeah,
is well, and I think that's and you're right, because we've talked a couple times during, the lockdown, just keeping in touch and whatnot, and this might be a good segue into you know the other question I had, because you and I were talking about, well, you were talking about mostly, I was listening, about
yeah,
creating art in this time of great change. And, and how
yeah,
that historically, right? Like, again, like these amazing art movements and these impressive, changes in our history have
yeah,
come from these times,
yeah,
these periods of great
of
change.
course.
And we're in one. Like, you don't see it at the
Yep,
time, of course you
yep,
can't, because you're in it. But
yep.
creatives, this is your time.
Well, it's not even creatives, it's humans.
Right, right. Yeah, fair
See,
enough. Fair enough.
we are in a constant state of flux. Nothing is ever the same. Every moment we are changing, the walls are crumbling, the paper breaks down, our skin ages, the ashes fall back to it's a constant
Yeah,
cycle
yeah.
of this. What we've done as humans is we try to create comfort and stability to present us with the illusion that things aren't changing, but
Mhm.
they are always. Just be with it. Just be with it. Don't make it mean anything. Don't blame. Don't this. Don't that. Don't be duality. Don't be didactic. Just be. Be present with it all and learn, grow, emerge from it like a phoenix from the
Right.
flames. You know,
Yeah.
this is it. This is our opportunity. It's always there. It's like
Mhm.
we have to constantly go to the edge and be teetering, and that's where the magic is.
Right.
That's where life happens. You know, when we fall in love, when our child is born, when you're in an accident, when things of really intense nature, that's where people wake up. That's where, like,
Mhm.
you see, like, oh my God, I got to quit my job. I have to go become a botanist. I have to go climb the Andes, whatever it is.
Whatever it
It's your
is.
calling. It's like it's there. Don't ignore it. Like,
Mhm.
see it, and it's it's disheartening when I look around and because you can't make people. We can only do what we do, right? We can
Mhm.
only change our relationship to things. We can't change the things. The things are doing what the
Right.
things
You're
do,
saying
right?
yes.
When I set fire to a drawing, it will do what it does. And sometimes, well, it's funny. I was making a piece about Prometheus, and there's Promethean fire, and I had to set the drawing on fire because that was
Of course.
what it had to do. Of
Mhm.
course, it's about fire. What am I gonna like
Yeah,
draw
absolutely.
fire? It's like the hell. Like, this is silly. So I set the thing on fire, and it's burning on the wall in the studio, and it was so beautiful. I couldn't stop it because it had to go to its end. It had to follow its
Mhm.
journey. And so I just watched this drawing burn, and
Yeah,
it was a beautiful moment.
yeah,
The art did its thing.
yeah.
Um, I have a little bag of ashes. I don't know if you can do anything with them,
I
but
know,
maybe
right?
pin them to the
Did you
wall. But
document it? Did you document the burning?
it's kind of like it's like you gotta follow. You gotta just give into it.
Mhm.
Give into the kind of the magic of being alive, right? And it's good and it's bad. It's ugly and it's beautiful. They're simultaneously
Right.
there,
Always.
and
Mhm.
our culture is so interesting. We hide death, we hide birth, we hide from any of the sufferings, right?
Yeah.
A baby's born, does happens behind closed door. Grandpa
Mhm.
dies, we put him in a box behind closed door. We don't want to see it. We don't want to be face these things, but
Right.
these things are what can lift us, what can take us to these places that you know we deserve, we can go to. We're just like we let ourselves down, and that was kind of that was a realization for me that, like, am I letting myself down with the works that I'm making? Like, are they 100% the thing I should be making?
Right. Okay.
And I couldn't have gotten here without all the other steps.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really, really trusting now, like, that I can make a realist painting of the ocean, and then I can make a almost abstract patinaed lotus, and it's okay. They can be together.
Right.
They're of the same universe. They don't all have to be mountains painted by Carl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's
No, I
and it's kind
do.
of a it's a leap for an artist. I gotta be honest with you, because even in college you're taught, like, to develop your style, develop
Yeah.
your message, develop all these things, right? That which is largely just so that people can digest them easier.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a more understandable package. But I think that's kind of, it's letting me down, it's letting the viewer down to keep any of that in my mind. And and I it's not like I'd done that in the past,
Mm-hmm.
but there's always that little bit of, like, oh, I'm creating a series now, a body of work
Mm-hmm.
that are inherently connected. You know what I mean? There's a,
Yeah.
like, I'm always kind of conscious of that little voice, and it's like, okay, I think it was Richard Halliday in ACAD that said to me, like, every mark on that page, you have to explain it to me, and if you can't,
Oh,
what the hell's it doing there? Like, why is it there? It's letting us down. It's not it.
right.
And
Okay.
and I'm paraphrasing. I mean, I don't know. He probably might have swore at me or
Right.
something in that too, but it
Right.
was that general kind of message, right? And so I constantly, like, how that thing I just made, how honest was it? How close was it to the
Right.
thing I should just be making? And it's yeah, it's been a really awesome time for me in that sense, in that I've really gotten just present to, like, just making the thing.
Well, and
And it's funny, like, I generally finish a painting quite quickly, and it's done, and I move on to the next one. But these are all, I just keep going back into them.
okay.
None of them are there yet. I keep, like, okay, I gotta push that back. I gotta pull that out. And, they're getting richer and richer, and the images are finding their way, because I'm allowing them to, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
rather than projecting my idea of what they should be onto it.
Okay.
And
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
And then,
Okay.
the Michelangelo quote I have on my arm is that the greatest artist understands that the concept is in the marble, and the hand that obeys the intellect shall set it free. Because he believed that and this is a Neoplatonic intellecto, right? This kind of
Yeah.
spiritual intellect, right? This kind
Mhm.
of conduit to God, maybe, as Michelangelo would have thought of it, was kind of, it was imparting the art, and he was freeing it from the marble.
Exactly.
And yeah, and whilst I'm not God fearing in that sense, I do believe that, maybe something closer to a Jungian collective unconscious, or some shared kind of space where we all actually are of the same blood, we are of the same flesh, and we do share this kind of thing. And it's like, it's in there, like, it's I have to find it, and let it out. And it's kind of, it's keep peeling away that canvas and revealing it, what's underneath it.
Well, and that's always what I've loved about your work too, is that um, that there's always layers, like, and so you can see it as an object of beauty. There's
Yep.
always, there's always a story behind it, which I also like. They are kind of just rich in, a narrative, which I also love. And I think this may also be a good time to segue, since we were talking about sculpture, is I wanted to bring up, I have, oh, where are they? I thought I had the vessels loaded. Shoot, I don't. Okay.
Yeah.
But you are working on these
Big.
3D printed vessel, because they're called a vessel for change. And these were some of the works that you were doing
Those were, yep.
at,
Yeah.
right at the
Yep.
start of
Yep.
the pandemic. But
Yep.
you are going to have a little bit more of, like, sculpture in this next show, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, I'm casting some very large vessels as
Yeah,
we speak, actually, like 6 foot high concrete vessels that
so
are, I mean,
exciting.
the vessel to me has long been a source of interest in the idea of, the Zen emptying our cup, right? Like we have to keep emptying our cup
Mhm.
of all the things we know, of all the things we believe to be so. When we empty it, we can let new things in.
Right, right.
When we have a very fixed idea about what a thing is, there's no opportunity for growth because we've already decided the answer. And that being in a constant state of flux, we're constantly growing. I mean, I've had such a transformational year this year, like which began with an ayahuasca experience last spring, and
Right.
it just, blew my mind's eye wide open to this thing, like this
Mhm.
grandeur of it all. And it's been a kind of a that really it literally poked a hole in my third eye, so to speak, in that I've been kind of like this whole year has been just openings after openings. And whilst they're always there, Einstein used to speak of our dimensions kind of rotating concentrically around one another, and every now and again doors would pass, and
Right.
we might call it a ghost, or we might say I saw some phenomenon that
Mhm.
I can't describe, or I got a feeling that I should not get on that plane. It's like you had an opening, like you
Right.
glimpsed it.
Yeah.
Don't fucking
Yeah.
miss that.
It's
Sorry
like,
for my
it's
language.
okay. We never said this is child
Don't.
friendly.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
No, I get what you're
But don't
saying.
miss
It's so
it.
true, right?
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
get that
Don't miss
shot.
it.
So you feel like
Yeah,
you've had more
see
of
it,
that, is
see
what you're
it,
saying,
and
because I know we've talked about
yeah, yeah,
and I've seen it in your work. Like I honestly have. I mean, I've always
yeah,
been a fan of your,
yeah, yeah,
like since like before I even represented you years ago. I used to come into the gallery and I was like, oh, that's great. I love this artwork. But
yeah,
certainly in the last 2 years, like wow, I've just seen this like it is
yeah.
it's blowing up a bit, buddy. Like,
Yeah,
how do you see
I
it?
honestly,
I know you're
feel
humble
like
now.
I honestly feel like I'm just getting started now.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like, okay, here we go. Like it's Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, the Ode to Joy. He's like, the Ode to Joy is like he's fucking got it. He's
Yeah.
like, I figured it out.
Yeah.
Like, and it's triumphant. It's like it's so awesome. Like it brings tears to my eyes. It's like, okay, let's go now. Like
Mhm.
now we can start to do some stuff. And I feel a little bit like that's what's starting to open here. And
Right.
it's and I'm diving headfirst into the icy waters, and I'm uh yeah, just open to it all. It's
Well, and how
so these
exciting.
vessels, sorry to digress. Yeah,
Yeah.
the vessels are emptying our cup, allowing new things in. The idea of a body as a vessel, right, for life. The
Mhm.
the funerary vessels of the ancient Egyptian, like all of it is just so like such a beautiful metaphor, right? And there's the breaking of the vessels in the biblical story, right? Of Anselm Kiefer works a lot with that, right? These broken vessels of Judaism, right?
Mhm.
The knowledge, the Library of Alexandria burning, right? It's so interesting to me. It's like a clearing, right? It's like, and then now we can go again.
Mhm.
It's like it's letting go of what we know. It's my wife and I have had this amazing growth this year in which we kind of like looking at each other differently. Like, and all of a sudden I'm like, I actually don't know who you are, but that's kind of beautiful because you realize like there's so many more layers than like, you're my friend, you're my mom, you're my dog. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you have these kind of like rich tapestries of life that I don't, all I see is, this veneer, and I know a little bit about, but the
Mhm.
layers and the stories, they stretch back through the eons. And
Yeah.
we are the vessels, right? The ancient Gnostics, spoke of the absolute thing that the pleroma, the unknowable God that sought to know itself.
Right.
And in doing so, it's separated because
Mhm.
it became didactic. In questioning it, we set up a relationship,
Right.
an I you,
Right. Right.
right? This is Zen. As soon as you name it, it's no longer it.
Yeah.
So the thing sought to know itself. In doing so, it split into its two opposites, the male and the female. The female gave birth to 1,000 points of light. The male went and smashed things and threw lightning bolts at the earth, and as we do.
Yeah.
And the source, the whole point of it was to get back to this whole, right? To reform this vessel, to put all the pieces back together. This Japanese kintsugi, the fixing of the broken
Yes.
uh,
Yes. I love that.
pottery with the lines of gold. It's the universe in a grain of sand, as Blake said. It's like every little thing contains it all.
Mhm.
That lotus from Vishnu's belly button is our everything, all of it, from our Tesla cars to our cheeseburgers
Yeah.
to our our troubadours singing songs of romance to death metal in Norway. Like, it's all there, all encapsulated in a
Mhm.
little grain of sand. And it's infinitely beautiful and available. And I just, try to scratch a little bit of that, see it. Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to talk to you about,
Yeah. Is
is,
it my drinking?
yeah, it's, it's
As I pour
COVID.
my glass again.
Yeah, no, where I'm like, I'm like, you've been doing most of the talking. And thank you again, everyone. I just see, like, hi, Becky. Oh, she has a comment here. Some similarities to archaeology layers. And then she says, "Do you think Brett Murphy?" She has one of your pieces as a drawing.
Yeah. No,
Like,
absolutely.
how
I mean,
makes
it's
more sense now.
sure. My mom actually, when I was a very young boy, like grade 3, grade 2, she bought me all these books on ancient Egypt because she loved it. The Tutankhamun exhibition had probably traveled not long before, and
Right.
these books, and it that was a pivotal moment in my life because I saw these like beautiful artistic treasures from history that I was like, oh my God, like we've been making this for like thousands of
Right.
years, like it was just like, and how, why do I relate to them when this is like, how can I understand what this little boy would have felt in ancient Egypt? What am I experiencing here? And it began a lifelong kind of love of archaeology, from the British Museum beautifully displays like the history of humanity, from our first fragments of pottery to the Mona Lisa and the Louvre. Like, you can see all of this like growth of the human mind, of human consciousness, right?
Mhm.
As we created tools in the Bronze Age, as we started to fashion weapons and armor, as we started to become masterful at these crafts, and then we got to take the crafts apart, and it's just such a amazing linear kind of trajectory through how we got here. And so that is deeply interesting to me, especially as I'm making paintings with the same dirt that Rembrandt would have used.
Well,
And
yeah, exactly.
it's of the same earth, right? It's yeah, we're deeply connected. And it's funny, like all the troubles that are existing in the world, if we just got that deeper level of connection, how would I kill you? How would I think ill of you? Like, when we're
Right.
one and the same,
Mhm.
right? We are not different. The same blood courses through all of us. And it's yeah, and it's and I get that. I want to make art that speaks about that, that reminds us of that, that just provides a point of kind of departure for conversation. I don't claim to have an answer, or they're more questions, right? Like, just places to begin, you
Yeah.
know?
But again, that's what I love about your work too, is that there are a lot of questions, right? Sometimes it is, yeah, about how you're creating these things to begin with. Sometimes it's even about the narrative, like what is the story? Because you know there's something more to it. And again, I'm going to bring up, another question I have is about the tondo.
Yes.
So these are like rooted historically, and I know that, but again, they're not as common. So again, your choice to use the tondo, and again, I mean, I think I know the answer. I think we all know the answer given the earlier question is like, how do you decide what goes in a painting of a circle, right? It's a
do you know this thing called an enso? Sorry, I'm getting something.
Okay,
bear with me.
Fine. We'll check out your studio in your absence.
Well, do you know an enso, right?
Okay.
This is a Zen, right? The circle. It's the circle of profundity. It's a beautiful thing to experience, to make. You watch a great calligrapher will sit in some meditative state and connect with this thing, and in a explosive moment, the brush smashes into the paper and a perfect circle is drawn, and this circle contains it all. This is the beginning of consciousness, the beginning of math. It's a dot. It begins the Big Bang. It opens. The canvas is peeled back and off we go. The circle, then the line begins, right? And off we go. And this is a Zen circle, the enso. And so the tondo for me is, there's no edges really. There's no, it's a conceptual kind of thing, right? There's also the idea of zero in math, the idea of nothing, no thing, mushin, this like it's emptiness is form is emptiness, right? There's like it's zero, and yet it contains everything because it's the potential for it all, it's so the tondo to me is it's a Japanese Zen circle. And maybe many more things.
Well, no, there's a question here too from another one of our gallery artists, Rocio. Hello. What are your reflections on current human consciousness?
Well, I think consciousness is, it's of great interest to me what consciousness is, and some of the latest kind of neuroscientific findings speak of it in terms of relationships. So the most base level of consciousness would be two atoms, right? It begins, right? So there's a connection between the two. You think of a jellyfish, right? It doesn't have a centralized brain. It's a web. It's a net of signals that the signals all fire and it moves, right? It's really beautiful how the synapses fire, and and so consciousness is an elusive creature. I meditate daily, and you watch the nature of your mind. You watch thoughts arise, you watch them dissipate, and you see that they're nothing. You don't even think of them. They emerge of their own volition. I mean, this is the latest thoughts on free will. Do we have it, right? At what point is that signal sent? Is there a thinker prior to the signal that's sent? Like, where does it begin? What is consciousness? And I don't even begin to pretend to know what it is. But I have a bit of a through meditation and being able to watch it, you can almost step out of it and you can see it. When like an emotion like jealousy or anger or a negative emotion comes, the great meditative teachers teach you to just step out of the way of it and it will pass you by. If I get hit by it, I'm in a fight. We're throwing stuff. Like, there's going to be yelling and there's going to be a big fight because I got hit by it. I let it get me.
It's
not a thing. It doesn't exist. it's just some electrical impulses that are being shot. It's so. What is consciousness? I don't know that it's a
Well,
thing.
it's a big
So the current
question.
state of it,
It's a big question for sure.
yeah, it's the question. It's the hard problem. I mean, this is what uh, the neuroscientists and philosophers call the hard problem. It's like we
Right.
don't know that we can ever. What is it like to be something? Is kind of the uh, the question, right? What is it like to be a bat? So then we can start to go, okay, can the bat think about being a bat? Does it have consciousness,
Right.
right? And at what level does it stop? And so this idea of it being about connections, sorry to digress,
Mhm.
is really interesting to me because that's kind of what my work is about, is connections, right? Like,
Mhm.
what is Vishnu connected to a Catholic in Rome? Is it connected to an atheist in a supermarket? Are they all
Yeah.
connected, right? Is there
Yes,
some
right?
jellyfish, some grand jellyfish moving through the cosmos? Are we a part of that? It's I don't know. It's a lovely dream, not unlike Vishnu's.
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
think the current state, I think, Rocio, I don't know if you heard earlier, but we were talking about like when there's times of great change, when there's challenge, it's a, it's an opportunity to step outside of ourselves and get bigger and expand our consciousness. I mean, I think
Mhm.
it's an opportunity. Now, humans, maybe we are almost maxed out in our evolutionary trajectory. Hence, AI is emerging. This
Yes.
kind of,
Yes.
I mean, our phones are now deeply connected to us. They're almost a limb. I
Well,
can
true.
tap into I can tap into the world's knowledge at a
Yeah.
I can
Be-
yell at Siri and she'll tell me anything I want to know. I mean, this is like magical, right? So the step now to that being directly linked to my brain is very close. People like Elon Musk and Ben Kurtzel are claiming we're less than a decade away from having direct access to the internet
Right.
via our thinking, like, so now does that where consciousness now takes the next leap, right? Because when when AI guys talk about consciousness, they're really interesting because they say humans, well, I have my consciousness, whatever it is, right? Whether it's in my fingertips, we always centralize it in our brain, but a simple meditative retreat will realize it's not in your brain at all. It's like it's in your toe, it's in your knee, it's
Yeah.
your whole body is a conscious thing, right? It's like it's cellular interaction. And the AI guys talk about, well, that's very limiting for humans because what our AIs are going to do is they're going to connect in a hive kind of mind. And what I know, what you know, what Rocio knows, what Brent Murphy knows, we're all going to actually be simultaneously sharing this consciousness. Now, this is like, now we're at elevating to, you know, I mean, it's mind blowing, right? But
Well,
we're
yeah.
on the
This
cusp of it, so it's
is the stuff of
it is what it
sci-fi,
is.
but is it that
Yeah,
far
but
away?
it's
Right.
no, it's not. I mean, it's not at all. I spend a lot of time reading about that stuff because it interests me. It's like as much as where we've come from, as much as that copper bowl that was hand pounded. I'm also interested in linking minds with everybody. I like it's
Yeah.
all interesting. It's all beautiful. It's all of us, right?
Wow.
It's yeah. How can it not be?
Well, and I'm going to
But
bring
I'm
up
not sure
one
if that
last.
answered your question.
No, well, it's a big question, right? I
Yeah,
think
yeah, sure. Yeah.
wanted to kind of know, like your take on, because this is
Mhm.
just it. Like you're a comfortable speaker. You're,
Yeah.
you also
A
have
lunatic.
a kind of a unique way of explaining things that, yeah, I mean, I was intrigued too. It's like, okay, let's bring this on. Let's bring
Yeah,
this
yeah.
on. So
Bring it
Rocio
on. Yeah.
asking. Um, and hi to, yeah, Jen, and who else was joined us? Jen, Melanie, said hi to you.
Sander,
Martino,
Martino.
yeah, so thank
Yeah.
you, all of
Awesome.
you. Um,
Yeah.
I'm going to end with this image. And these are old.
Elvis.
This is from one of our first shows.
Yeah.
I had to go back to these because honestly, when I saw that blue, I'm like, yeah, this blue.
Yeah, I know. Blues always kind of been. My son's name is Thalo. It's
right.
you know, and I made a painting many years ago of it was prior to his birth, and it was prior to him really existing even as a concept.
Yeah.
And it was called Thalo Begs for Release, and it was you know, it was a figurative kind of almost abstract canvas that there was just this kind of energy wanting to kind of release from the canvas. And it's so interesting that you know, even that just emerged for me because Thalo is still begging for release. The canvas is still ripping open to reveal it's the beauty of it all, you know, and yeah, thank you for that. I just had a nice moment. Yeah.
Well, no, these are so beautiful.
Good.
And I'd forgotten that we had this
Yeah.
picture of, because they are framed individually, but I forgot we had this picture of them all together.
Yeah.
So when I saw it, I'm like, I have to include this because I think this just gives also people an idea. You know, now I'm talking as the dealer / decorator, but you know, like it just shows how beautiful these look as a series, like either in, you know, like one is great, but like look how 2 or 3 or 6 look too, right? Anyway, I had to sneak this one in because
well, this is going to be the beauty of AI. There can be like 6 of us, and we can do more things.
Yeah.
We can make more paintings.
Okay, fair enough. Well, that's our hour.
Yeah.
That's our hour.
Yes.
It goes so quickly.
And that went quick, eh? Well,
but
when you have a rambling lunatic, it kills time. Yeah.
But that's what I love about you. That's what we all love about you. But that said,
yes.
I mean, Carl is, as I said earlier, but some of you may have tuned in later in the stream, Carl is our September exhibition. So we will have him back for a live stream at that point, and we'll talk about all that body of work, because then maybe I'll actually have loaded some images of the sculpture, and these 6-foot ones are going to be impressive anyway.
Yes.
So, or maybe we can even do it at the gallery. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But all I had to say,
we'll do it.
We will do this again in September.
We'll do it all.
I know. Well, thank you, Carl. I'm just going to wrap things
Thank everybody that listened in. I sure as hell wouldn't listen to me, but thank you. Yeah.
No, and thank you for me as
and
well.
Nothing I said here is true or the views of the artist or the gallery. Little disclaimer. Yeah.
There's the disclaimer.
Very important. Yeah. I do not represent the views of me. Yeah.
Oh my God. I know this has been a good one, but I can't even. I've lost my train of thought. Okay, so thank you for me as well to everybody who tuned in.
Phalo just emerged too.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Blue has arrived. Yes.
There is the kid named after the blue.
Yes.
As usual, we always would love to have your feedback on our live streams, because we are, we are still learning how to figure out this this platform. A recap also that we are now open to the public on Fridays and Saturdays from 11 to 4, but otherwise you can make appointments on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for Candace in the Frame Shop, or to come down and see our show. It's the Redux show, which is our kind of like, let's try this again show. A lot of great stuff up, including this Carl White behind me. And all the artwork we discussed tonight is available for purchase. So if you're interested in anything, please don't hesitate to reach out as well. And that can be by email, phone, social media, whatever. We've got a lot of options. Please don't hesitate to also follow Carl White on both Facebook and Instagram, because he has a lot of great content on there as well. And we are also always open at christineclassengallery.com. A lot of these images, not all the new pieces, but a lot of the other images that we have in inventory are there. So thanks again, Carl. It was great.
Thank you for doing it. I'll go crazy in this cave if I don't get to talk about it. So thank you. And thank you, Jen, for the blue hearts. That's very nice. Blue. So thank everybody for listening to me.
Yeah. We appreciate it.
I know it's not easy or fun. Yeah. Thank you.
But everyone have a great weekend, okay? And we'll be back here next Friday with Carrie. All right. Good night, everyone.
Awesome. Bye, guys.